Today, we have a special conversation centered around being a woman in sports. And I have two amazing women in media joining in on this important conversation. First is the CEO and founder of Black College Experience and Southern University grad, Miss Keisha Kelley. Keisha, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm doing really good on this Friday, so it's a great day.
Good, good. Thanks for joining us. And last but certainly not least, alongside is HBCU Go's own reporter and analyst, Miss Lawrencia Moton. Lawrencia, how are you?
I'm blessed. Thanks so much for having me, Nia.
Course. Thanks for joining me, ladies. I'm super excited about this conversation because over the past decade, we've witnessed a remarkable surge in women's sports, with more and more women breaking down barriers to secure a seat at the table. Whether if we're competing or we're in media, this progress is a testament to the growing recognition of women's contributions in the sports industry. So I'll kick off the conversation by asking you both your thoughts on why it is so essential for women to have a seat at the table in this male dominated industry.
For me, the biggest thing with being a college athlete and then moving into this space is knowing that in order to have an authentic conversation, you have to have diverse perspectives, right? So only having the bird's eye view of one gender or one race doesn't fully tell the overall story. So I feel like that's why it's important for women to be a part of this space.
Sure, sure. Keisha, I would love to get your thoughts on that as well.
Well, for me, I wasn't a student athlete, but I'm pretty sure I'm much older than the two of you. I am approaching 44 years old. And so I'm 20 years removed from Southern University, and I've saw a lot of stuff across the scope. And so being a product of a historically Black college, Lawrencia said, we see one gender, most of the times. And it's so important as we continue, as we look at the WNBA, for instance, we see the growing need for women's voices to tell our story. And it's nothing worse than someone telling a story that has not walked in your shoes. And so many times, it's been because of a certain gender, they know more. And we have to work so hard to prove ourselves when both of y'all are, former athletes. So, y'all would know more about the game than some of these guys. But, it's very important for women to be in this forefront telling the story the same way, guys are out here telling the story.
Keisha, I want to follow up with you because you started your platform, Black College Experience, in 2016 to amplify and bring exposure to HBCUs. You've also raised funds and awarded scholarships to students planning to attend or already attending HBCUs. I want to ask you what inspired you to create this platform?
So mainly because when I look out, we see a SEC network, we see other networks, but we didn't see HBCU networks. We didn't see networks specific to us. And we know so many diamonds in the rough that gone on. And one of those people I always talk about is Tariq Cohen, fourth round pick when he went to the Chicago Bears. So many athletes have come out of HBCUs that were not recognized, and so many people that were flying to the radar. And I'm like, there was a point in time when that's where they went to for the NFL. That's where they came from. They came strictly from HBCUs. And so when I see these athletes, the Robert Mathises from Alabama, and them people just really wasn't giving us our due. They weren't giving us our due just. And so in that instance, it's like, okay, how do we bring more exposure to these athletes that are not getting the exposure that they deserve?
Laurenti, I want to toss it back to you because you mentioned earlier in the conversation about being a former women's basketball player to on-air talent, something that we both can attest to, right? And you and I both know firsthand the experience of being a woman in sports on both sides. Now that you're on the other side, what are some things that you've experienced when you first came into the sports media space that you weren't necessarily privy to when you were an athlete?
Oof, I mean, that's such a loaded question because there are so many things that I just didn't know, right? But the biggest thing for me was the disparity in opportunities, I would say. Oftentimes when you're an athlete, you don't really get to see the behind the scenes. You just see the people that are front and center and asking you the questions, but then realizing that not only are there not many people that look like me, both gender and race wise, the opportunities aren't even there. And then the ones that are in the seat, have been there for years. So just knowing or not knowing how hard it is to kind of break down that door. But as Keisha, as to your point, we've seen a turnaround, and now it's the hype around women's sports and women in sports. And so it's a great time to be a woman in this space. And I'm just
It
so
is.
happy. I feel like I came in at the right time. I mean, I'm so grateful for those who came before me and have really busted down those doors. But right now, I mean, we're on the up and up.
For sure, for sure. See, it's always been the year of woman, but it's really the year for us to really step into these spaces and break those doors down. And I just commend each of you, and both of you just inspire me to just continue to keep going. So thank you for all that you all are doing in these spaces.